When WagerTalk acquired the iconic Gold Sheet, the goal was to turn it into a modern, user-friendly product providing high-quality content and data. We're well on our way to achieving just that, and we want to show you how far it's come. From Friday, December 24th through Sunday, January 2nd, enjoy free access to the Gold Sheet. Just head to goldsheet.com and sign in using username free@goldsheet.com and use password free to get access to our NFL, college football, NBA, and college basketball content for the entire week. No credit card, email, or registration is required. Check it out. And if you enjoyed the new and improved Gold Sheet like we know you will, lock in savings now and grab our 2022 football Gold Sheet for just $99. That's right, until January 1st, 2022, we're taking $100 off the regular price of $199. From all of us here at WagerTalk Sports Memo and the Gold Sheet, we wish you a wonderful holiday season and a prosperous new year.
Welcome in, guys, and a very happy Thursday to you here, December the 23rd. Hard to believe, guys, just a little over a week away from 2022. But between now and then, we still got a lot of college football bowl action to get to. We'll break down a couple of new bowls here that we've never done on the show, and we'll revisit a couple of ones we've already talked about and get you some updates there. And, of course, we'll do it with three of the finest here at WagerTalk.com. And I am not lying when I say finest. Three of the most profitable college football handicappers at WagerTalk. Ralph Michaels even brought his pen. Shocker. Adam Trigger in the house. And a return appearance by the one and only Steve Merril on reprieve from his coaching duties. So it's always a pleasure to get Steve back on the college football show here. So far, Ralph, so far so good, college bowl-wise. Anything that you've been able to take away from what we've seen thus far?
Well, came in number one at WagerTalk over the last four bowl seasons, 33-15, 59%. Started 5-1. And as we often seen, the jumped out 9 overs of the first 11 games when you had the group of 5 teams playing together. We're going to certainly see that number when I went to the database over the last 4 years. There have actually been more unders than overs. So, my only word of advice is what happened in those early bowl games clearly does not happen, especially when we're getting into this bowl period of the games we're talking around the end of the year, the 31st, and the January 1st bowls.
Yeah, good stuff there. Absolutely true, guys. There are a lot can still happen here between now when it is all said and done. But one thing we know is, Trig, it's been a hell of a last month for you in college football, man. You're absolutely crushing it. Looking to continue that as these bowl games continue to pop up. What's going on over at WagerTalk.com? What do you got lined up for us?
The bowl season has been good so far. 4-1 in the bowls. I've hit 8 of my last 9 in college football overall. We've got a 5% bowl play that's up that goes in a few days. And I have, if you're watching live, I have a 4% play tonight in the Gasparilla Bowl. So excited about the next couple weeks.
Yeah, it should. It's going to be a lot of fun here, guys. A lot of money to be made here. And Steve Merril, welcome back, my man. Of course, your top 25 college football videos this season have been most helpful to viewers and listeners here. And as we head into the bowl season, the crux of it here, what do you got going on at WagerTalk?
Yeah, that college football video, of course, is like the power ratings each week. And you got to be a little careful with power ratings this time of year because, the math is important, but it's more about the focus and the motivation of these teams and really who's even in the lineups. And that's, of course, just health, injuries and leaving early for the NFL. But now you got to worry about COVID as well. A lot of these teams getting decimated. So we're keeping a close eye on it, but we're still using some math whenever possible. And I've actually got my strongest bowl play of the season I've released so far going tonight on Thursday in that Gasparilla Bowl. I can't spell it, but I can bet it. And we're going to play it strong tonight. I've also got 2 NBA plays as well. Number 1 ranked college and pro basketball combined this year at WagerTalk.com. Don't forget, half price for the bowls. No coupon needed. It's on my page right now for the full bowl season. But if you do want to get basketball for half price, my number 1 ranked basketball, you need Hoops 179. That gets you both college and pro for 30 days, 2 for the price of 1. Hoops 179 gets you a full month of my number 1 ranked basketball. Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com.
All right, good stuff there, here, guys. And I tell you, no better place to start than when I get to make fun of this team. Come on, let's go, Robert. Yeah, let's go to the Alamo. Come on, let's go to the Alamo Bowl so I can make fun of the OU Sooners. I see you smiling, Ralph Michaels. Oklahoma opens up as a 4-point favorite in this one with the total of 63 now is what we're looking at here. And this one, of course, December 29th, 9 o'clock Eastern time. I am seeing 4.5s in a number of spots, as well as the total coming down here a little bit, 61.5. So, Ralph, we've got 2 teams, 2 new coaches. Changes are coming to the Ducks and the Sooners. What do you like in this matchup?
Joe, first I've got to ask you a question. Do you only wear your orange Oklahoma State Cowboy thong when Oklahoma State plays? Or do you also wear them when you're rooting against the Oklahoma Sooners?
It's a great question, Ralph, and I'm so glad that you asked, and I know the viewers are as well. But the reality is when Oklahoma State is playing, I wear them the right way. I actually flip them inside out when OU's playing there. So you just keep that visual in mind, Ralph. Thanks for asking.
I appreciate it. You know, you look at 2 10-win teams, and, you know, it's the first time the Alamo Bowl's had that. But in the WagerTalk College Football Guide, I broke down teams' records against winning FBS teams and on the road and neutral games. And Oregon, against 7 winning FBS teams, was actually outgained by 15.4 yards per game. Oklahoma only played 4 winning FBS teams, and they were outgained by 39 yards per game. But as Steve mentioned, you know, while that stat profile does favor Oregon, the situation does not. Again, we have 2 interim head coaches. Bob Stoops comes back to handle Oklahoma, and we have Brian McClendon for Oregon. But what concerns me more is this. You know, Oregon's new roster is everybody stayed. That's surprising as hell. Besides Mario Cristobal being gone, DeRuyter took the Texas Tech job. Joe Moorhead took the head coach of Akron, but they're all staying the Coach's Bowl. I mean, that normally openly happens in a championship. So Oregon gets the stat profile and the check for the coaching. Oklahoma, of course, he jettisoned to USC. He took with him his defensive coordinator. He took his wide receivers coach. He took his outside linebacker coach. So Oregon will be down a few coaches. Opt-outs, we always have to mention them. For Oregon, Thibodeau's gone, and Devin Williams. So the opt-outs clearly have an edge for Oklahoma because, you know, yes, Spencer Rattler hit the transfer portal, as did Austin Stogner, and their second leading receiver, Hazelwood. But Oklahoma's got 5 or 6 receivers with 30 or more receptions. I'm not concerned about that. Oregon is. You take out their top receiver, no one has more than 400 yards. I think that leaves them in a void here. Couple stats that I want to throw out. I did get these from Mark Lawrence's bowl guide. Pac-12 is 0-5 ATS in bowl games against the Big 12, and Pac-12 has not been a bowl conference. Pac-12 bowl teams off a straight-up loss, 0-12 against the spread, and Bulldogs, this is not just conference-wide, Bulldogs off a loss of 28 or more have only covered 33%. All very negative angles for Oregon. The deciding factor that has me leaning with Oklahoma in this game is, you know, even though Bob Stoops is old, these players know who he is. You're playing for a legend. And Khalid Williams, now with Rattler gone, can finally relax and not have to worry about every throw you make that you might get yanked in a game. He knows he's the quarterback moving forward. With Oregon's past bowl performances, I am going to lean Oklahoma. Not going to be a bettable game for me, but a clear lean on the show.
All right, there you go. Leaning towards them. What do you think here, Trig? Big 12 taking on Pac-12 in this one. Who do you give the edge to?
So I talked about this when we talked about the MAC earlier this year, where the MAC overs just started to get so trendy. I was like, when are we going to jump in and start taking the under here? I feel like fading Pac-12 teams in bowl games is starting to slowly get to that point. And I'm not saying I just want to come in and start betting all these Pac-12 teams, but both these teams were teams that thought they were probably going to play for the CF, the college football playoff this year. At least that was the aspiration on both sides. Neither got there, and neither, had a very impressive finish to their season. The last time we saw Oregon, they got pounded by Utah in the Pac-12 title game. The last time we saw Oklahoma, they lost to Oklahoma State. Now you have these two teams facing off in a bowl game that isn't a marquee bowl game. It's the Alamo Bowl. And but what I want to know is everyone's betting Oklahoma this game is over already. And I can't really figure out why, because I don't see a huge difference here between the two teams. Ralph kind of outlined some of the intangibles with the coaching staff. Oregon's going to have their staff there to coach this game. I feel like this game is bigger for Oregon. I just think that they sort of need a higher profile bowl win here, more than Oklahoma does, in my opinion. I don't know if that makes it a play, but I do think that, this line a little bit and the way it's being bet is a byproduct of the fact that Pac-12 teams have underachieved the last few years, becoming a narrative. So I mean, neutral field in San Antonio. I don't see a ton separating these two teams right now. So this is not something I've bet to this point, but I think you're getting some value here with plus 4.5 with Oregon. I have my gut tells me they're going to care about this game. I feel like, motivation is a huge sort of way you want to handicap these bowl games. So, right now we're still a ways out from this one, but I lean Oregon here.
So the game in San Antonio, Steve Merril. So I gotta believe there are going to be a few OU fans in attendance in this game. So crowd certainly will be in their favor. What do you think here? Do you give the dog a shot in this one?
Yeah, I definitely give the dog a shot. I mean, motivation's a key factor for me, like I mentioned, when handicapping these bowl games. And these were definitely two play against teams, at least, when I circled my short list before seeing all the matchups and whatnot of teams I thought over the last couple of weeks of the regular season might be good fades in the bowl games, because Oregon was in the top 4, with a month to go, and they got blown out at Utah, and that cost them a chance at the playoffs. Had they run the table, they're in the college football playoffs. They're going to be ahead of Cincinnati most likely. And they get blown up by Utah a couple of weeks later in that rematch, So you do have to concern about their motivation, and now players and coaches not there. But Oklahoma's as extreme as any other team in the country, So these are two of the biggest letdown teams coming in the bowls, and unfortunately we get them paired against each other. I do think both teams were overrated in the regular season. I mean, Oregon really did not deserve to be a top 4 team. I didn't have them that high. Oklahoma was exposed at different times. I keep thinking back to what was it, the Tulane game early in the season was at 40-35. And then they played that Nebraska game, 23-16, low scoring. Sometimes the defense was good, sometimes it was bad. Sometimes the offense was good, sometimes it was bad. And that's what makes this game so difficult to handicap. My power ratings favor Oklahoma by 5. That takes in everything for the regular season into account. Obviously, a lot of that has changed. Line is 4.5, so it's pretty much spot on. I think when there is uncertainty in a game like this, though, and you don't know which team is going to show up, all things equal, you'd probably rather have the plus 4.5 with the dog with Oregon.
So one other team trend to keep an eye on in this matchup here, guys, going back to 2000, scratching your head here, but Oklahoma is 20-6 to the under in the month of December since 2000. So not necessarily an over team when we get to this time of year. At least they haven't been over the last 20-some-odd years. All right, we'll move on from there, and let's get a little Mayo Bowl if we could here, Robert. Yeah, the Battle of Carolinas, huh? Mayo it is. Mayo thing's a little strange. North Carolina laying 5 as an opening number against South Carolina. Now, it should be noted, I believe this has been pushed up here a little bit. Sevens I saw at some spots as well, with a total opening of 58 and a half here. I see 9.5s now, and I see 59s in the marketplace. So clearly the market, Ralph, likes North Carolina. Do you?
No. But with that said, I also don't like South Carolina. And, let me just go through some positives for each team. Number one, I love the way Shane Beamer came out and said, listen, I'm not replacing my dad at Virginia Tech. South Carolina is my home. Those kids love them. And, while they finished the season with a shutout loss to Clemson and a bad game at Missouri that they lost that they could have won, you look at a loss at A&M, you look at a loss at Tennessee, you look at a loss at Georgia, and then they lost a home game to Kentucky. So the season has been a positive in the first season of Beamer, and he's going to be there a long time. His wife's family's from there. They live there. Their roots are there. They're set. Mac Brown, obviously, one of the biggest disappointments from Sam Howell being I think he was Heisman number 2, at the start of the season, with everyone thought if anyone was going to be able to beat Clemson, it was North Carolina. The VT loss, the Georgia Tech loss, the Florida State loss, the Pittsburgh loss wasn't bad. The NC State loss to end the season. So a 23-9 ratio is not what you expect of Howell. SEC Bulldogs. We saw Missouri hang around against Army last night. SEC Bulldogs now 11-2. And if I could get that SEC Bulldog, that always has me leaning towards that team. One negative for South Carolina, teams that had 3 points or less in their last game are only 1-12 ATS the last 5 years. So you finish ineptly like they did against Clemson, it's hard to get that turned around in a bowl game. I just went through and I read the Mac Brown quotes from his bowl practices. They've been practicing at home. They're going to Charlotte Christmas Day. The kids had a day or two off to go spend with their family, and then they have to regroup. But when I find a coach like he did, he's been a lethargic bowl coach, and he's admitted, he goes, I let the kids have fun. I work on a lot of things for the next year, and I let a lot of young kids get a lot of reps. This year completely changed. We are playing, and I mean playing. You can cut block. They're going full speed. We've been incredibly aggressive. And I do love bowl teams in that spot where that coach says, listen, these practices are legitimate. This is not fun. Yes, we're going to spend some bowl time and have fun, but this is a serious bowl game, and we are taking it. So, I'm going to leave it with this. I'm going to lean with the over because I think South Carolina can open up the offense. I'm not worried about 206 yards against Clemson. I'm not worried about 306 yards against Auburn. The offense as a whole is averaging 322 yards. That's not good. But this North Carolina defense is allowing over 400. I think they have fun with Sam Howell. I think we're going to see a plethora of trick plays. Both teams take a lot of pride. Again, Charlotte. When you say Carolina football, the head coach, Mac Brown, wants you to be thinking North Carolina. You say Carolina football, Shane Beamer wants it to be South Carolina. So the in-state rivalness of this is going to be massive. I'm going to pass on a side, unfortunately, and I'm going to lean with the over. An exciting bowl game for me to watch, but no betting interest I can give you that's going to slant it one way or the other.
Our good stuff there. Talk to me, Steve Merril. North Carolina, South Carolina. Wow. Kind of in your neck of the woods there. What do you think we're going to see?
Yeah, and it's the Mayo Bowl because it's Duke's Mayo, which is a solid mayonnaise. Hellman's has always been my life choice, but Duke's is a close second if you're a mayonnaise fan. And yeah, in this game in Charlotte, right? And Duke's, but we don't have Duke, the Blue Devils. We have the Carolina Tar Heels. But anyway, just to explain that. But I like where Ralph was going with the SEC underdog. That is something that catches my attention as well. We saw a huge line reaction, by the way, in that Missouri game because they didn't have the quarterback last night against Army. My power ratings actually favored Missouri outright. I stayed off the game because of the uncertainty, but Missouri kept it within the 2 there, and the line difference did make the difference in that one. And this one has gone from 5, opened as low as 5 in some spots, now 8.5, 9. Pretty much crossed over where my power ratings are, right in between there. So at over a full touchdown now, I think you can make a case for the SEC underdog here, getting some points. And they did play the tougher schedule, and it's a substantial step down in defense opponent here for South Carolina. Their average opponent gave up just 5.4 yards per play this year. North Carolina's given up almost 6 yards per play. In fact, they gave up 6.1 on the road. North Carolina gives up almost a yard per pass attempt more than the average defense that South Carolina faced and struggled against a bit this year. But South Carolina actually threw the ball better than the overall stats would indicate. Running is where they had some problem, but I think they can move the ball against a suspect North Carolina defense. And also, we're reaching that point now where teams have been off for several weeks. And when you're a highfalutin offense like North Carolina, I think the longer delay hurts the offense more than the defense sometimes. So there are some things that point towards South Carolina here. I'd like the SEC dog angle, the better defensive team as a dog, and the extended prep time. I know Mac Brown maybe says he's taking this game more serious, but as Ralph said, he has had a history of kind of being a player's coach. Maybe because this is a North Carolina bowl game against an interstate rival, maybe he is taking it more serious, but we'll see if that actually translates on the field or not. So I would lean South Carolina getting more than a touchdown.
All right, leaning towards South Carolina. Now, Adam, I know you've got a big 5% best bet here in this game available on your page, but I'm curious, do you think that the SEC fans of South Carolina going to show up at all to root on this team, or is it, you think it's going to be all North Carolina there in Charlotte?
Well, I'll say this. First, I just want to say that I find mayonnaise absolutely repulsive, as do I find most condiments. I eat almost all of my food plain with nothing on it. It's a little fun fact about me. But I love the Mayo Bowl. Like you said, I have a 5% best bet on a side in this game. I'll just throw in, I think there's going to be scoring. So if you're looking to bet the total, I definitely wouldn't play it under. I think it'll, potentially could soar over the number here. So that's my lean on the total. But yeah, my side, my take on the side is one of my strongest of the bowl season, and you can find that on my page. It's my 5% bowl best bet.
There will be no mayo on sandwiches in his future. All right, you can tell you that right now. One other quick trend we'll tell you about, guys, with the SEC for this game here. SEC teams as a dog of 7 or more been pretty profitable, guys. In the last 20 games, 14-6 against the number. So the SEC has shown up and shown out when they are looked at as a big dog. And the North Carolina, South Carolina game certainly should be a fun one. All right, now we got 2 other games we're going to talk about. We've already talked about these games, guys. They're both involved with the Cotton and the Orange Bowl, obviously, the national championship at stake. Just the other week, we covered these with both Dave Koken and Tony Mejia on the show. So we encourage you to get their opinion as well as these guys' opinion on the game. And you can always head over to our YouTube page. Check out those videos, guys. Knowledge is power. So the more opinions you get, the better chance you are of making it a profitable national championship and playoff run here. So why don't we start with the early game? And let's take a look again, if we can, at, I believe, the Cotton here, Robert. Give me some Bama. Roll Tide, taking on the Cincinnati Bearcats, everyone's favorite underdog. Cincinnati and Alabama. Alabama opened up just under a 2-point, touchdown favorite in this one, with the total hovering around that 58 as an open. I'm still seeing 13.5, 57.5 as it's starting to tick down a little bit here, Ralph. Give us your thoughts here. Roll Tide taking on the Bearcats. Fickle, Saban. What do you think?
You know what the most refreshing thing about talking about this bowl is? Nobody opted out. No one's in the transfer portal. So it's so nice to have a game where your teams are going to be established. It's Bama for me. I'm going to make it simple. You look at Bama, they held 7 opponents to a season low this year. Everyone talked about their offense. No one talked about their defense. We saw their defense, in the Georgia game. Yes, Georgia ended up getting 400 plus yards, but that was second half yards. Bama ended up on the season number 2 on defense, holding opponents to 141 yards under their average. Cincinnati on offense, averaging 430 yards against one of the weakest slates, ever to be in this type of game. So I look at the strength of schedule. Bama plus 189 yards against the number 7 schedule. Cincinnati had some impressive wins, but we saw them allow way too many teams to stay close. They played the number 82 schedule and played 100. They were only plus 123 yards per game. So Bama, 75 spots on the strength of schedule better, and 60 plus yards per game. I don't see Cincinnati's offense getting to 20, and I don't see Cincinnati's defense holding Bama under 34. To me, that's simple. Bama for me. Cincinnati is a great story, but we're also going to see why no Power 5 team has ever been here. And the more Power 5 teams will make it once they expand the playoffs, but I think they'll be the last team, if there's only 4 teams in the playoffs, to make it unless something extraordinary happens. It's simple. I'm on the Alabama Crimson Tide.
All right, Alabama Crimson Tide. Briefly, we saw 14. It didn't last a whole lot there, Trig. I would imagine the public money are going to come rolling in on Bama, too. Do you think we get to 14 again in this game?
Well, Joe, I'll tell you right now, I think if we do get back to 14, I think it's going to be hit again by some people, and it'll probably tick back down. It looks like all the money's on Alabama right now. But to your point, it's really kind of sat 13 and a half. We haven't seen many 14s. And I'm going to try to make a case for Cincinnati here. Because all I've heard for the since this matchup was set is Alabama's going to roll. This game won't be close. And I'm not saying that that's not, potentially going to happen, but I do see some redeeming qualities on the Cincinnati side here. And it just looks like the books are sort of like begging for more Alabama money. Almost like they're willing to take a position with Cincinnati plus 2 scores. So, Cincinnati's defense is solid. I would say their defense is more legitimate than your typical group of 5 defense. They're outstanding in the red zone, converting 70% of their red zone opportunities. And to me, a big key here is going to be the play of Desmond Ridder. Okay, he's a veteran quarterback that doesn't really make mistakes. He can run it. His completion rate is up in the high 60%. And Cincinnati overall, can run the ball, I think, enough where they're going to be able to, move the chains, assuming they come in with a reasonable game plan. I've kind of had Cincinnati all year as I had this written down, this team, they're not just group of 5 good. This team is outstanding on a national level. I think they belong in the top 4 teams. I don't think that, I know it took a little help for them to get here, but I do think that Cincinnati was one of the best 4 teams in college football this season, and they deserve, to be in this spot. So, think back to a couple of weeks ago. Alabama needed to drive down the field, to beat Auburn in a game they really played terrible in. And I don't know that they really deserve to win just to have a chance to then play their way into this game. It was a weird spot for Georgia in the SEC final. The rare, Georgia, they were already in. So I don't know how much that had to do with it. It was a nice win for Alabama, but Alabama, they needed to win that game. That was a must-win game for them. It wasn't for Georgia. I actually think the number's kind of high here. I'm going to sort of monitor how this goes. I'd love to see it go to 14 and a half. I can almost guarantee you I'll jump in with Cincinnati if that's the case. But I don't think there's any harm in waiting because I don't think we're going to get worse. So I'm just going to kind of wait around and see what this does as it gets closer to the game time. But the only way I would play it is Cincinnati. If I can't get to the window with Cincinnati, I'm just going to stay off.
All right, Cincinnati are not there. What do you think here, Merril? Saban, extra time. Oh boy, what do you think here, man? Is it Alabama or not for you?
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating that what the biggest bowl line of all is one of the top 4 matchups, right? So that kind of tells you all you need to know about, these mid-major teams playing their way in. But Cincinnati's a very good team. They're 33-4 the last 3 seasons now. However, the only time they were this big of a dog was game 2 back in 2019. They were a 14-point dog at Ohio State. They lost 42-0. So if that's any barometer, maybe they don't step up in class. They were an 8-point dog in the bowl game last year against Georgia. They only lost, I believe, 24-21. However, that wasn't necessarily a fully focused Georgia squad. So we got to put maybe a little bit of an asterisk next to that one. I think it's very difficult to step up in class in any sport, especially when season after season you don't play not only good opponents, but an SEC caliber. And we just talked about how good, Ralph, you and Ralph both mentioned how good SEC dogs have been. This is the power conference, so it's not a good one to be stepping up in. With that said, though, I think you can make a case. I mean, how often do we say a national semifinal game is a letdown sandwich spot? But they're coming off the must-win against Alabama, as Adam mentioned. They had to win that game. Against Georgia. Georgia didn't have to win that game. Alabama did. And they know they get this one done. They've got a possible rematch with Georgia or Michigan on deck. So I know it's a national semifinal, but it's not the championship game. Normally you look for routes in the Super Bowl and the championship games because they don't leave anything on the field. Bama does have another game on deck. So asking them to beat a good defensive underdog by more than 2 touchdowns, gets me a little concerned. We'll see where this line settles. I do think it's interesting that it's been hovering around 13.5 for a couple of weeks. There are a couple of Vegas books now that are back down to 13. So if that's any indicator, maybe it's not going to hit that key number of 14. But public sentiment that I look at is on Alabama in this game. Not really, really heavy, but that is the way they're leaning. So maybe when that public money comes in, and by the way, I don't think much of the public money has come in yet. They roll it over game after game with all these daily bowls. I definitely would hold out if you're going to play Cincinnati and wait for a 14. If you end up getting 13 instead of 13.5, not a big deal, but 14 is a really key number. If you like Bama, I would definitely lock up the 13. Now, I'd probably even play the 13.5 because it's not worth risking to lose it to that key number of 14. Quickly on the total, we didn't talk too much about this, but obviously Bama's explosive offensively. Cincinnati, a very good defensive team this year, obviously against a much weaker schedule. But just to put in perspective what Alabama did, over 400 passing yards against Georgia in that last game. Georgia was averaging around 4.5 yards per pass attempt, which is unbelievably great numbers this year. Now they average about 5.5. So in one game, Alabama bumped their season numbers by 20%. Cincinnati is not as good as Georgia's defense. So I would lean over here. I think, both teams can move the ball offensively more than expected.
So 2 trends
Joe?
here. One, yeah, go ahead, Ralph.
I respect the hell out of Adam's opinion. I just want to share my power rating numbers. I actually have your Oklahoma State Cowboys 3 points better than Cincinnati. And yes, I know Cincinnati beat Notre Dame on an off day, but I also have Notre Dame 2 points better than Cincinnati. So I clearly do not think Cincinnati is one of the best 4 teams in college football.
You think they suck, Ralph? Just say it. You could have just said, you don't have to throw out power now. You could have said, they suck. And we're about to find out.
Oklahoma State. I'll give them Oklahoma State.
I'm a fickle fan from Ohio State. And, the thing that makes them unique is this. They have a couple cornerbacks that can cover man-to-man. That allows your defense to be so much better. And if you can do that. But, again, we're talking about a team that played the number 85 schedule. Those cornerbacks looked great. But the best team you played was Notre Dame and then Indiana. And those were the only 2 Power 5 teams you played.
Yeah, I'll give you Oklahoma State. I think you can make a pretty good case that Oklahoma State's better than Cincinnati, but there's no chance that Notre Dame is better than Cincinnati. I think that Notre Dame team lucked, in my opinion, they caught every named team that they played this year on a down year. And then they got slapped by Cincinnati. So I can't agree with you on Notre Dame being stronger, but
slap.
I can see
slap. They got back. All right, let me give you 2 trends here real quick, guys. One of which Robert, our Fearless producer, is probably going to scream and yell, but we'll get to that. But to your point, Steve, Alabama, the last 10 games against elite defenses that have given up, I believe, 17.5 points per game or less, they're 10-0 to the over. So to your point there, they tend to play to the over the better the defense is. And Robert, this is for you. Cincinnati is 2-7 against the number after playing the University of Houston in the last 9 tries against them. So Houston, for some reason, takes it out of them, Robert, and they're not the same team the following game. So you still ain't going to bet them. Really doesn't make a difference. All right, let's hit the Cotton Bowl. Let's go. What do we got? Boom! Georgia taking on Michigan in this one. And again, guys, we went over this one also a little over a week ago with Dave Kogan and Tony Mejia. So make sure you check their points of view out as well. Georgia opened up as a 7.5-point favorite with the total of 43.5, and it has ticked up. I'm seeing 45s now in the marketplace, still at 7.5. So, Trig, start us off on this Georgia-Michigan battle for the chance to be a national champion. Who do you like?
Well, Joe, I'm just going to continue to double, triple down. I've been saying it all season. I started the first show we did on the Hustle with, I gave out Georgia 8-1 to win the national championship in college football, and I still think that's going to be the case. You know, you want to talk about, I think you mentioned, everyone's favorite underdog. That's what Michigan looks like right now, is everyone's favorite underdog. Because, I mean, this might be like the square dog of the bowl season right here. I mean, it's quite a bit of Michigan money, and I just don't understand that one bit. I mean, yes, Georgia got smoked by Alabama in a game that was essentially an exhibition for them. I mean, it would have been nice to win the SEC title, but Georgia was in the college football playoff, and I do think that takes not having to win that game to advance takes a little bit out of it for Georgia for me. So I'm not even gonna dock them for what happened there. I don't. Michigan didn't beat a good team until they beat Ohio State. I mean, they essentially played unranked teams all year, and the one team they did play that I also thought was not a terribly good team, and that was well over where they were supposed to be all season, was Michigan State, and they managed to lose that game. Georgia's defense, incredible, holding teams to under 10 points a game. Michigan needs to run the ball to have the success, and I don't think they're going to be able to run it with any sort of consistency on Georgia. I just think Georgia was an absolute machine up until that Alabama game, which again, I'm not going to put a ton of stock in them losing that game to a really good Alabama team in that spot. I think we get Georgia's best effort here, and I don't think this number's enough. I'd be happy to lay 7 and a hook is always tough, but if I haven't bet it yet because I'm kind of invested in Georgia just winning this whole thing. But I really like Georgia. I wouldn't be surprised if this is like the bloodbath game where Georgia just wins by 30 and it's not even close.
Oh, all right. Well, big stuff there, Steve. The line's not moving, right? So, but the total has, and Michigan over the last, I believe it was 17, where they are a 7-point dog or more. They're 14-3 to the over. So the market seems to think maybe 43.5 was a little low, pushes it up to 45. Do you think this game will get some points in it when it's all said and done?
Well, just like the other game, I mean, one thing about totals, whether it's the Super Bowl, national championship games, these do or die elimination games do have a tendency to be a little higher scoring than people think because teams leave it on the field, like I said earlier. So this is an elimination game for one of these teams. So that might end up being a low total for that reason. But I want to get back to the side again. I agree with a lot of things that Adam said. Some of the, I of course do the NFL Fade the Public video. I don't do it as much in college football. However, it's always a huge red flag. I couldn't find a red flag, Joe. I got the American flag, the checkered flag, but I need a red flag because this is a red flag alert. This is a heavy public dog from what I'm seeing. And keep in mind, like I said earlier, I don't think many of the public bets have come in yet. The public rolls it over day to day with these bowl games. They play all of them. They sit back and watch them. And that's why, like you said, this line has not moved. It's sitting 7.5. I would definitely wait on Georgia, unless there's a lot of heavy, sharp action, which there might be, because you just heard one sharp guy like him a lot. And I agree with him, by the way. I consider myself another sharp guy. I think we will see some 7s in the next week because I think the public is going to be heavy on Michigan, especially at plus 7.5 or more. I don't like that term trap line, but this is what they're talking about because it looks too good to be true to Joe Public here. after just watching Michigan beat up on Ohio State, watching Georgia get decimated against Alabama, the one tough opponent they played. Now, I will say Georgia's schedule this year was a little weaker than the SEC West, and that was a concern going into that Bama game. But I think it's more like Adam said. I think it was just an off game for him. Didn't really have anything on the line. This is the focus spot now. And Michigan had a nice season. They overachieved. Georgia's been the best team in college football this year, and I would love to see the rematch against Alabama. I mean, best situation probably would be Georgia narrowly wins, maybe has 3 turnovers, still wins. You know, misleading should have been bigger. Bama blows out a overrated Cincinnati team, and then we get Georgia. Could we possibly get them as a dog against Bama? I doubt it, but maybe that would happen. I think we get an Alabama-Georgia rematch in the national title game.
Well, Ralph, it's 2-0 Georgia, but Michigan did take down a pretty good Ohio State team there that could do a whole lot of running really well. So what do you think here? Is this can you take the points with Michigan, or would you be okay with that?
I didn't hear Steve because I was busy getting his flag. So, I
Thank you. The database is awesome. He had that in his database.
I'll tell you what. I actually lean Michigan, and I can't argue with anything those guys said. I'm going to quantify numbers. Georgia played the 35 schedule. Michigan played the 31. So almost exactly even. Adam said Michigan did not play winning teams. Steve said they were in a very weak division and their crossover games were easy. So both are true. They played identical schedules. Georgia was plus 190 yards per game. Michigan was plus 135. So that's a 50-something difference. That doesn't necessarily mean, I still think this point spread's too big for that close of a number. But we know we have to play it on the field. You have to remember now, with Daniels in COVID protocol, I think that pretty much guarantees Bennett's going to play, because if he's not taking practices, I don't know what their practice schedule is over Christmas, but if he's missing any amount of practices at all, that means you're going with Stetson Bennett. He may know who he's playing, and he's just appeasing both kids, but, I don't know that situation. I'm going to go a different route, and I am going to go under, first half. If you look at the WagerTalk live odds screen, it's wt.buzz/odds. You'll see there's some 21.5s and there's some 22.5s. A big difference with a game with 45 total points. So if you can find the 22.5 first half, I absolutely think this is a feeling out against the number 6 and number 3 defenses against winning FBS foes. Georgia played 6 FBS teams with winning records. They held those teams to 278 yards. That was number 3 in college football. Michigan played 7 teams with winning FBS records. They held them to 314 yards. That was number 6. If a team gets an advantage, another team may have to open it up and you bring turnovers into play. If you can grab the 22.5 for the first half line, I do like it as an underplay.
All right, liking as a possible underplay. One of these quarterbacks, McNamara or Stetson Bennett's going to have to make a play. Which one do you trust more is going to be the interesting question there in that matchup. But there you got it. You got the cotton, you got the orange, you've got the Mayo, and you've got the Alamo Bowl here, guys. So now the question is, which one of these bowls, or even outside it, do these guys maybe like a little bit more than the others? So, Ralph, start us off here. What bowl game are you leaning towards here?
First off, happy holidays and Merry Christmas to all viewers. This was an incredible show this year. Thank you for tuning in and watching. I'm going to give you an actual client release that goes next Wednesday. I already posted it at WagerTalk, so my bowl customers got it. And it's the Cheez-It Bowl, and I'm going to be on Clemson. Iowa State has a huge statistical profile advantage in this game, but that's because they lost 4 games as a favorite, and they were getting a lot of garbage yards late trying to play catch-up. They lost as a favorite of 4.5, of 7.5, of 7.5, and 10.5. You have their number 1 player, Breece Hall, out. You've got 3 other starters opting out or in the transfer portal. Clemson has no opt-outs. Clemson has no transfers. You have the ultimate motivator in Dabo Swinney saying, listen, guys, we've won 5 straight games. Yes, we lost early, but this wasn't our year. We had a young quarterback. This is game number 1 moving towards the 2022 national championship season. Sweeney is an incredible bowl coach. But this matchup stat is my top bowl matchup stat. Iowa State's offensive line with Breece Hall, they have to be very careful because of play action plays. They don't get sacked often. They were only sacked 5 times. They were only sacked 2 or more times in 5 games. So in 7 games, Iowa State had a clean pocket with either 0 or 1 sack. In the 5 games that they got sacked 2 or more times, they went 0-5 ATS, losing as a favorite to Iowa, losing as a 7-point favorite to Baylor, losing as a 7.5-point to West Virginia. Clemson's D-line, 24 sacks the last 5 games. They will dominate this game. It's the Clemson Tigers as an actual client release and a best bet here on the show. And again, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to all viewers.
Great stuff there, Ralph. As always, make sure you guys head over WagerTalk.com. Visit Ralph's page, as he has just been absolutely on fire here over the last month. Good stuff. Now, Trig, I know you got a 5% best bet coming up here, locked and loaded at WagerTalk.com. Tell us, is there a bowl game, though, you might be leaning towards a little more than the others?
Yeah, so I'll go rogue too and go to one next week. I have not released this yet, but I'm going to probably as soon as I get off air here. And that's the Baylor Bears. I'm still seeing them like +1 some places. I talked about it on my show on Wager Talk TV last night. Actually, Kelly brought it up that Ole Miss is potentially without quite a few players in this game, and Baylor's a team that's been kind of big time undervalued all year. They their season win total was 5.5. Okay, like there was nothing expected of this team, and they go out and win a Big 12 title. I know someone close to the Baylor program. They're going to have every single player essentially playing in this game. There's no opt-outs here, mostly because they don't really have a ton of they don't have players that are going to end up in the NFL next year. But what I've heard is they're extremely excited about this game. Like, this is a massive spot for Baylor. It is the Sugar Bowl. Sorry. It's the Sugar Bowl. Mm-hmm. Huge spot for Baylor. Ole Miss is going to be down a couple coaches. So Lane Kiffin's going to actually be doing the play calling here in addition to coaching the game. I actually think this number is going to probably move. I was surprised that it was still where it was. I'm going to take +1. And release it to clients like as soon as I get off air here. But yeah, I love the spot for Baylor. Think it could be a little bit of a down spot for Ole Miss. And I just think the motivation is going to be on the Baylor side. They're going to really want to be there, really want that game. They're going to have all their guys, and I think they're going to get it done.
All right,
Adam, you have not been around Joe Raineri long enough. Sorry, Joe. You know what? You don't give out a game to Joe Raineri. He bets enough to move the lines. He's on his app right now and probably screwing you out of a freaking number. You make sure you get that posted first.
I don't want to hear it. Just because I got +2 and now it's that +1, I don't want to hear it, Ralph. Not my fault there. But yes, I agree with the Baylors wholeheartedly there. I think Baylor gets it done. Come on, Big 12. Get it done. All right, talk to us here, Steve Merril. I know you've got one of these bowl games up your sleeve you may like a little bit more than the others. What are you looking at?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I didn't know that Bobby's Backyard Bookie was on the Wager Talk Live odds screen, so I'm not sure Joe is moving that line at all as we speak. And just I'm going to go with the game we talked about here already. Speaking of line moves, North Carolina opened as low as 5 in some spots. It's now 9 across the board. And I'll take a underdog SEC team whenever possible, get more than a touchdown in these neutral site bowl games. And I'm conflicted on this one because, once again, I got to talk about the deliciousness of mayonnaise in general, but it's an 11:30 a.m. kickoff Eastern time. And I'm not big on mayonnaise before noon. Any other time of day, it works for me. But this is the Duke's Mayo Bowl in Charlotte, the Battle of the Carolinas. And I think the SEC dog here is worth a look at +9. I think it's an overreaction. It's crossed over my power ratings going from 5 to 9 over the past couple of weeks. North Carolina, a very good offensive team, no question. But South Carolina is the better defensive team, getting more than a touchdown with several weeks off. So we'll take a look at South Carolina +9 or more in the Duke's Mayo bowl game. That's an early Thursday morning, December 30th, start at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. A quick reminder, half-price bowl package is still available for everybody at WagerTalk.com. No promo code needed. And if you'd like to get my number one ranked basketball, college and pro combined for a full 30 days, it's buy one, get one free, 2 for the price of 1, everything for just $179 with promo code HOOPS, HOOPS 179. HOOPS 179, 30 days of basketball, half price. Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com.
All right, good stuff there, Steve. And guys, again, just a quick reminder, we'll be back again tomorrow here, breaking down, of course, another round of bowl games here. But do want to remind you that multiple videos already posted up at YouTube there on our Wager Talk page. If you haven't done so, make sure you head over there and subscribe here so you can get all the opinions based upon these upcoming bowl games on the show. They are there for you. Knowledge is power, and no better knowledge than what you are getting here with these guys on these shows. So there you have it. As a quick recap here, we can take a look at Ralph Michaels' best bowl game pick, Clemson. He likes Clemson at a pick-em price here. The future is bright with Dabo Sweeney. Trigger's going Baylor. Got it at a worse number because he followed it to me, but no big deal. Baylor +1. He's got him there against Ole Miss. And South Carolina, Mayo and all, +9 against North Carolina is where Steve Merril is going. And Trig, you have not lived until you have dropped a nice cube of butter into your coffee. And let me know how that works out in the morning for you. I know you're not a condiment guy there. WagerTalk.com, guys. If you haven't done so, head over now. Get those best bets. Trig's got a best bet, 5% best bet. Bowl game coming your way right now, guys. That's still available up at Wager Talk. Ralph Michaels, whether it be college basketball or, of course, the rest of the bowl season, guys, right now at Wager Talk. And Steve Merril, college basketball, NBA, Hoops 179. He told you about it. And his bowl game best bets also available on his page at WagerTalk.com. So on behalf of Ralph Michaels, Adam Trigger, and Steve Merril, guys, we appreciate it. A very happy and safe holiday to you and yours. Again, we'll be back tomorrow. Make sure you hit that bell in the upper right-hand corner. And until then, best of luck with your plays tonight, guys. We'll talk to you again soon. Happy holidays.
Wager Talk continues to be an innovator in this industry, and our WagerBucks program is just one example. Because it's the holidays and we're feeling festive, we're giving you $100 worth of WagerBucks for only $49 using promo code WB49 at checkout. So how do they work? It's simple. You buy credits in bulk at a discounted rate and then apply them dollar for dollar towards your purchase. Use your purchase WagerBucks on $2 Tuesday, $9 packages on Monday. Buy your favorite 5% plays with or without the guarantee. Grab a 7-day all-access pass or even a 12-month package. That's right, purchase WagerBucks can be used on everything with no restrictions at both WagerTalk and SportsMemo.com. Due to the incredible savings, this special offer is limited to 1 per customer. From all of us here at WagerTalk, Sports Memo, and the Gold Sheet, we wish you a wonderful holiday season and a prosperous new year.